Today's little short video is a real quick, I wouldn't call it a review, but a feature statement on the Canon RF 24 to 105 IS STM, the f4 to 7.1 variable aperture version. It's what the RF kit lens for full frame cameras. Now I bought this lens new. Excuse me, I didn't buy it new. I bought it used. It looked brand new when I bought it. It was perfect when I bought the thing. Paid about $300 shipping and everything for it. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm extremely happy with this lens. Now, I am a school day photographer for the most part. I'll go in a school and I'll set up a little head and shoulder portrait studio setting and sit there and take pictures of kids all day. Typically on a set aperture, listen to me, focal length, somewhere around 75, 80, 85 millimeter focal length, where I don't have to worry about zooming in and out and a variable aperture influencing my exposures. So that's why I wasn't worried about buying this lens for that, because I knew everything. Once I set it, I was going to leave it and all my exposure would be set. I'd come back from the printer, just print batch prints and go for it. For the other day, I had an opportunity to take pictures at a beauty pageant at one of our schools, and we set up. And typically, those shots are full length because the girls want to see the full dress and everything. But I was using this camera, which is a Canon R6, the first version, 20 megapixels. Love it. I don't know why I would ever need anything bigger than that, especially for what I do. But what I found, let me see. My exposure at that setup was f16 at ISO 2500. Now the reason I chose that exposure was because the photographer who was with me was also shooting. He was shooting a Nikon D70, much older camera, and I wanted to prove to him that these newer cameras, the ISO, you could crank it up and never even realize you won't see the noise and stuff in it like they used to. And so that's why I was using f16 at 2500. I wanted to shoot higher than that, but I didn't want to crank my aperture all the way down. But anyway, what I wanted to test something in that beauty pageant scenario where I would shoot a wide aperture, and I was typically shooting 50 millimeters for the full length shots, but then I would zoom all the way into 105 millimeters and get a tight headshot of the girls. And I just wanted to see how much exposure drop off I would get from 50 millimeters to 105. And I was expecting a dramatic drop off. I was expecting a stop to a stop and a half on my digital images on the computer. Well, when I got them back and downloaded them, I was shocked. I kind of saw this on the back of the camera when I was previewing the images on the camera. I'm thinking, maybe it's just my preview images looked that good. But when I got them back on the computer and when I started printing them, guess what I found out? That exposure did not change from wide to telephoto. I'm thinking, how can that be? It's a variable aperture lens, f4 to 5 to 7. It's a stop and a half from wide angle to full focal length. And so I got to testing it. Now I found out that the Canon doesn't tell you this for some reason. And all the review videos I saw on this lens, they don't tell you this. But if you're set on manual exposure and shooting your pictures, if you set your aperture above 7.1, actually 7.1 or above, and below, I think it's f22. As long as you're in one of those apertures, and I was using f16, your zoom, the zoom focal length does not affect exposure. I don't know how that works, but it didn't. So if you are one of those people who are looking at this lens for a possible purchase, but you're afraid of that variable focal length exposure variation in a studio situation, don't worry about it, because it's not there. If you stay at your prime apertures, which is going to be f8, f11, you're going to have sharp images, you're going to have perfectly exposed images throughout the full zoom range. Why doesn't Canon tell you that? I guess it's because they want you to buy the more expensive, much more expensive L series f4 lens. I'm telling you right now, you don't need it. This lens is fabulous, much lighter, sharp as a tack for portraits. Go get you one. Don't be afraid of that variable aperture, f4 to 7.1. It means very little in a studio situation where, typically in a studio situation, you are not looking for shallow depth of field. You're looking for sharp focus on your image. Typically, you want the entire head in focus, which this lens is great for that. You don't need to make a huge, heavy bokeh situation in these studio shots, these headshots, these school day pictures, portraits. Don't be afraid of it. Now, like I say, I paid about $300 for this lens. This video will make this lens worth more on the internet, so you watch. Go out and get it now while you can, while it's still about $300 for a used one.